Hello, I'm Amy Coles and welcome back to Buckingham News, our top stories. Local residents willingly found themselves waist-deep in the River Great Ouse in the annual river rinse. With Domino's and Costa arriving, the recently closed NatWest building has left residents wondering if Buckingham is being taken over by brands. And MK Lightning ice hockey team faced a tough challenge against rivals Guildford Flames. On Sunday 1st of October, many volunteers gathered together for Buckingham's annual river rinse. Starting at Broughton Car Park, the volunteers made their way up the river to the cricket pitch, clearing the water of debris. Samantha Carmichael has more on this exciting story.
Buckingham's local community take pride in their town, and each year volunteers come together to clean out a section of the Great River Ouse.
Today we're at the River Great Ouse in Buckingham, where volunteers are giving up their mornings to clean out a section of the river. In previous years they found many things, ranging from trolleys to even a horse's skull. Let's see what they get up to.
It's something great for the community, so it's good fun. We find lots of unusual things, and as you can see, lots comes out and the river flows much quicker, less likely to block up. It's a great thing to do.
The river rinse, organised by Buckingham Town Council, was established in the 1990s. With the help of Stowe Sub-Aqua Group and local volunteers, the river is cleared of unwanted debris.
We try to keep the river environment clean. It keeps the water flowing through, also improves the water quality and gets rid of the debris really in the river. We don't really want our river to be ugly, and if we didn't do it, over a period of 10 or 15 years we'd have a river which was full of rubbish and wouldn't be very pleasant and everyone would complain.
So today has been a great success, with another stretch of the river successfully cleared up. This is Samantha Carmichael for Buckingham News.
With large food chains controversially taking over Buckingham, the town is becoming a destination for big businesses. We sent Kezia Fentiman to discuss residents' fears over what brand name will plaster the vacant NatWest building in the not-so-distant future.
It is difficult to imagine how small independent businesses can compete, let alone survive alongside big brand names. The introduction of huge chains like Domino's and Costa to Buckingham have caused a lot of controversy, and the town's residents now worry what will take the place of each vacant building.
NatWest closed down earlier this year, and rumours that another corporate giant will take its place are causing quite a stir.
If we had sort of a chain come into like the old NatWest, it wouldn't really do much for the town rather than make it just another soulless town really.
I'm 50-50 to be honest. I think it's good to have a bit of a mixture in towns.
It's nice to see the small shops. Will they survive? That's the thing.
It's not just residents who might feel uncertain about the introduction of large corporations to a market town. Small businesses also have to prepare for the impact of huge competitors.
It was obviously a worry for us having a big brand come into Buckingham, with it's being such a small town. The impact wasn't as bad as we thought it could have been. The fact that we have such a community-based environment in this town, people wanting to help out the small businesses more. It's not the worst thing in the world to have these bigger brands, because there are more people in town, there are more people milling around, there are more people living here.
Ravi, the store manager at Buckingham's Domino's, said, "Big brands are attractive to university students and locals because it gives them the option. Customers are happier because big brands are more reliable, particularly when problem solving."
It is clear that Buckingham residents in general are uncertain how they feel about corporate giants, so NatWest's replacement will be a hot topic of discussion until a decision is made. This is Kezia Fentiman for the Buckingham News.
From July to November 1917, the Third Battle of Ypres, better known as the Battle of Passchendaele, was raging on the Western Front. 100 years later, and the memory of the Bucks battalions who fought there is being exhibited at the town's old jail museum. Suki Sagu reports.
The Battle of Passchendaele saw Allied and German forces suffering more than 600,000 losses between them over the period of a 5-month conflict. The Bucks Battalion, which contained soldiers from Buckingham and local villages, and was also known as the Ox and Bucks Light Bulb, are having their involvement documented in a moving retrospective display.
We've got a replica World War I uniform here. We have a German gun, machine gun, which was captured by the Bucks battalions at Passchendaele, which was their big battle which was going on as we speak 100 years ago. So some of these soldiers were being killed 100 years ago that they're commemorating.
Featured prominently in the exhibition is a map showing the addresses of all those from Buckingham killed during the First World War, highlighting the devastating local impact.
And some of the messages on the back are very poignant, especially when you know that the sender didn't come back. And he sort of send them to their children or their wives, you know, sort of saying, Daddy's thinking of you and hoping you're being good and all that. And they never came back, so, you know, children were orphaned.
The extent of this exhibition in such a small town such as Buckingham really brings home the harrowing nature of the First World War, opening our eyes to the personal history of Buckingham. This is Suki Sagu for Buckingham News.
The CEO of Bletchley Park gave a talk yesterday about the importance of the estate during World War II. Catherine Matthews has the story.
Tuesday evening, Ian Standen gave a lecture at the Chandos Road building and answered some pressing questions about the rise, fall, and rise again of Bletchley Park. Standen started the talk by explaining how radio became so popular during war times that there were entire departments and schools formed to encrypt and decrypt the messages. He then touched on the Enigma machine and its importance to the whole operation. Standen discussed the use of the mansion and surrounding area before and after World War II. In the future, we can expect more buildings full of newfound information and antiques. More STEM programs are being built for children in the huts, and further work is being put into landscapes. The talk was a success with a great turnout. Bletchley Park will continue to be very important for the history of Great Britain. This is Catherine Matthews, Buckingham News.
Michael Cockerell, an award-winning political documentary maker, visited the university to give a fireside talk on the relationship between prime ministers and television. Anna Dernison was there.
The changing nature of the way prime ministers engage with voters began with the growth of television, with Winston Churchill being the first in the 1950s.
She arranged for the camera to go, and she was going to film him talking to the camera so that he could see it for himself. I went to see her. She was an old lady in hospital when I went to see her, and she told me about it, and she said, I've still got the film. In bed you'll find a film can which says Churchill on it. It was this legendary old man saying, I'm sorry to have to descend to this level, but we all need to keep pace with modern inventions.
A prime minister who was more aware of how TV sells a story was Margaret Thatcher.
I sometimes did have some difficulties with her. We crossed swords a number of times, including during the Falklands War. I'd made a film after the Argentinians had invaded the Falklands. We made a film called Can We Avoid War? And Mrs. Thatcher was not very pleased with this.
Tony Blair was the absolute TV master of the prime ministers.
Remember the very first time that I had filmed with him, which was in 1972 at the time of the Falklands War, when Blair was first standing for Parliament.
We cannot wait for what Cockerell has to tell us in his film about Theresa May. This is Anna Dernison for Buckingham News.
The University of Buckingham celebrated the construction of the new Vincent Centre for Liberal Economics and Entrepreneurship. The construction of the building was made possible by Lord Vincent, who gifted £5.5 million to the university and the Institute of Economic Affairs to help widen the understanding of the Constitution of Liberty. Buckinghamshire Thames Valley Local Enterprise Partnership also awarded a grant of £3 million for the project.
But the importance of liberty is not realised until you've lost it. We are fortunate enough to date not to have lost it. And this new building is dedicated to the further understanding of the Constitution of Liberty.
The famous chef judge Claire Clark from BBC Bake Off came to visit the University of Buckingham to support the Motor Neuron Disease Association. She showed special techniques and gave precious tips on how to bake cakes and sweets. With her extensive pastry experience, Claire's favourite word is creativity, something that she always uses in her kitchen, inspiring and challenging whoever is there.
Someone help me, please! Help me! I'm
The university held a 2-hour disaster simulation for the medical students inside the MK Dons Stadium. The event featured the police, ambulance and fire services, as well as actors covered in special effects makeup in order to create a realistic environment. The simulation followed on from several days of lectures and workshops, which were designed to inform and help the students cope with a real-life disaster situation. The event saw students having to deal with a variety of issues, not only administering medical first aid, but also handle logistical problems such as identifying the most important injuries, allocating beds in ambulances, and even having to put up with pestering journalists. And now, over to sport with Amarachi Duru.
On the 30th of September, the Milton Keynes Lightning took part in a grueling and fast-paced ice hockey game against the Guildford Flames. Philip Johnson has more.
Last Sunday, the Buckingham Athletic Ladies Football Club was able to secure an impressive landslide victory when they went up against the Aylesbury United Ladies and Girls Football Club at the Bedgrove Park Field.
Yeah, I think we did dominate quite a bit. To be fair, played some really good football out there. Some good passing. The girls are getting a lot more confident now in their positions and what they should be doing actually on the pitch. I think we work really well for each other, and credit to Aylesbury's. They still played some good football themselves.
The tenacity of which the league leaders have exhibited came into play after the takeoff of the second half, when Buckingham Football Club turned the table around by scoring 7 additional goals, summing up an 8-0 victory over their opponent, as well as fortifying their position on the top of the league table.
We're in a good spot for that at the moment. I know it's only been 3 games, but 18 goals in 3 games. The team's buzzing, and the manager's really proud, and we're happy.
This is Kareem Nabil reporting for Buckingham News.
On Thursday, the 28th of September, Buckingham University students went along to the Big Rock Climbing Centre in Milton Keynes. As many of them were beginners, their instructors James and Cheryl taught them the ropes. Olivia Parcell has more on the exciting experience.
Artificial rock structures are the frame of climbing indoors. Climbers use this to improve their skill and techniques.
We're here today at the Big Rock Climbing Centre in Milton Keynes with the students of Buckingham University. This centre caters for all ages and abilities and is also the biggest in the area.
Have some people who climb who are blind or can't use their legs properly, and there's ways to make it accessible to all of them, which is pretty good.
Seasonal difficulties are not a problem for climbing lovers, as they can still enjoy the sport even if the weather is getting darker. It is an easy and fun alternative to the gym.
It's kind of really good for your body, obviously. You just exercise all over. It's not just kind of like you're in a gym, you're doing mindless weights all the time. You're kind of exercising everything. You've got to think about how to get up stuff.
It also gives beginners the chance to start in a safe environment, as they provide rope setups and ensure safe techniques are used.
For the students, today the session is over, but for those of you who are interested, there is a special Halloween event on the 28th of October, which of course is fancy dress. This is Olivia Parcell for Buckingham News.
On the 30th of September, the Milton Keynes Lightning took part in a grueling and fast-paced ice hockey game against the Guildford Flames. Philip Johnson has more.
From the outset, the Milton Keynes Lightning seemed determined to continue their home winning streak. This week, however, the Lightning's opponents were the Guildford Flames, competing in the Challenge Cup, outside normal Elite League fixtures. In Lightning's usual style, the game was opened up with an early goal from captain Kevin King, only 2 minutes and 54 seconds into the game. The goal was originally disallowed by referee Dean Smith, but upon a review of the goal line technology, was given to the home side. A second goal from Guillaume Dessette during the first period gave them a strong lead into the second. However, this was quickly reduced by the Flames forward, Rhett Roshinsky. Undeterred by the Flames' efforts, Lightning forced a third goal, bringing the score to 3-1. After a puck to the face, Flames number 14 Charles Wells spent several minutes on the ice recovering his knocked out teeth, forcing the arena staff to remove the blood that had poured near the incident. A last-ditch attempt by the Flames saw the score at full-time as MK Lightning 3, Guildford Flames 2. This is Philip Johnson for Buckingham News.
And now back to the studio.
Xanax, medication used to treat depression, is widely used in the United States but has been gaining popularity in the UK. University students use this medicine to feel relaxed and to get a euphoric feeling. Jack Wilson has the story.
Xanax is a much-loved drug on American campuses. Youngsters use it to chill on a quiet night, or they take half a bar of Xanax to black out after a night of drinking. Students usually buy a lot of Xanax at once from the dark web. It's quite cheap at around £3 per bar. Some students have said that after taking Xanax, they feel like they lost control of their body. They don't remember what happened when they wake up in the morning.
The family of drugs called benzodiazepine, that is also very commonly used in this country as a recreational drug. Many people call it Valium, diazepam, benzos, so there's many street slangs for it. Benzodiazepines are used for to reduce anxiety, reduce as sedatives. They act on the brain to slow the brain function down, to stop overthought, overactivity. So if you have too much that's not prescribed, then you can knock off your breathing centres in your body, and so become so sedated that you're no longer breathing properly, that you can't function, which can then normally combined with other medications can lead to death as well.
The popularity of Xanax will probably increase among university students as long as the health problems it causes are not made clear by health experts and doctors. This is Jack Wilson for Buckingham News.
A great celebration happening Sunday, October 1st is World Vegetarian Day. Isabella Devine has more on the unique day dedicated to vegetarians.
World Vegetarian Day is annually acknowledged on October 1st. It is a day of celebration established by the North American Vegetarian Society in 1977 and endorsed by the International Vegetarian Union in 1978. This day exists to promote compassion and bring awareness to the ethical, environmental, health, and humanitarian benefits of a vegetarian lifestyle.
Sometimes it can be a bit tricky, especially when, eating out and stuff, but it's pretty simple when doing it yourself at home. For me, being a vegetarian is a lot about animal rights. I actually have a blog online, and I promote it usually through social media.
It's hard having friends that aren't vegetarians, because when you want to have like a meal with them, like a cooking meal, they don't really want to eat veggie options. They rather eat meat options. And yeah, I do promote being a vegetarian to like my family members and like my close friends.
I went on the Facebook page, Buckingham It Matters, to see if there was a lot of vegetarians in Buckingham and how they felt. Many vegetarians commented and even suggested all meeting up for a vegetarian meal. A leading representative, John Harvey, Buckingham's mayor, commented mentioning that he has been a vegetarian for 40 years.
There are many challenges vegetarians have to face, although regardless of this, they still feel encouraged to do it. This is Isabella Devine reporting for Buckingham News.
The 2nd of October marked the first day of National Cake Week. However, this year it also coincided with National Vegetarian Day. Neil Fotheringham taught us how you can celebrate these two events with one simple dessert.
Today I'll be making a vegan lemon drizzle cake. You will need 275 grams of self-raising flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 lemon, 100 millilitres of vegetable oil and 170 millilitres of cold water. Then for the icing, you'll need another lemon and 150 grams of icing sugar. The first step to making this delicious treat is to preheat the oven to 200 degrees and grease the cake tin. Mix the flour, sugar, zest and baking powder and mix gradually, adding in the oil and water. Pour this smooth mixture into the cake tin and bake for 30 minutes, then let cool for 10 minutes. Finally, to make the icing, sieve the icing sugar into a bowl and mix in the lemon juice until you can pour it over the cake. As you can see, it's really easy to create this dish yourselves at home, so why don't you celebrate National Cake Week and National Vegetarian Day yourselves at home. This is Neil Fotheringham for Buckingham News.
Thank you for watching Buckingham News. We'll see you next week.